So, my loves, welcome to another episode of Yes to Life podcast. And today I am here with another beautiful guest, an amazing woman that have filled my feed and my energy in my life with so much colorfulness and beauty lately. And it's a woman that I feel both have this energy connection to the earth and to the plants and to nature, and also this connection to the mystical feminine energy and the spiritual realms. And as I said, she had filled my life with so much colorness, and this powerful colorness has been so nurturing, both for my female body in the cells and also to my soul. I can feel how we can heal with the colors, and I can almost feel her smelling like roses just by looking at her. So, welcome, dear Maria.
Oh, thank you, sister. It's a beautiful introduction and just feeling into, the colorfulness of our journey and how we have the fluidity and the flexibility to weave in and out of which color frequency is feeling that wants to be alive for us, and as women, we express that. We express that in so many ways through our clothing, through our makeup, through our feminine artistry. And there's so many options and hues and different ways to tune into that inner child and the feminine arts through color. So
Yes.
thank you. Yeah. And we're
Yes.
both in a violet,
Yes.
unplanned, but it is, violet, purple. It carries the codes of the priestess. It carries the codes of kings and queens and royalty. And so just by, putting it on our skin and our bodies, it does something to our memory. It does something to us where maybe some insecurities or questions about our feminine artistry, it sort of dissolves from the color frequency, and so we get to rise in our queendom and in that lineage of the priestess to hold ourselves and allow ourselves to take to take our rose throne, if you will.
Yes, absolutely. And I can feel as you speak, my tears are coming in the eyes, and that it is talking to the cells in our bodies. And
Mhm.
I also think when you look out in the world, so many women are black or white or gray. And I think that it's actually affecting us much more than we think. And it
Mhm.
can be scary to put on colors because it awakens something and we start remembering, as you said. Yeah. So it's beautiful to have you there with your colorfulness.
With my colorfulness,
Yeah.
and right now I am apprenticing with the frequency of violet
Yeah.
within the lineage of the rose. And, she carries her own curriculum. And so when we're looking at rose as a plant medicine, as a teacher, and as an essence, what I love about Rose is she is so colorful. I feel sometimes, maybe myself included, have gotten caught up in roses are red, right? I mean, even as a child, you hear the poem, roses are red, violets are blue. And
Exactly.
roses are red, and they're violet, and they're orange, and they're yellow, and they're white. And then there's a mystical esoteric lineage of the gold rose and the blue rose and the black rose, and what each one is here to represent and teach us. And, right now I am working with Violet as a spirit and as a teacher, and to strengthen me as a feminine artist and as someone who is guiding and leading women into their path of initiation in whichever way that looks, whether it's through the lineage of the rose or not. She's very much alive. She's awakening in our hearts. We're remembering the unfolding. We're remembering her softness. We're remembering her curriculum. We're remembering her beauty. We're remembering the ways in which she is guiding us over the bridge and weaving the mortal and the divine together. And so with Violet, and with the violet flame, it's all interwoven, right? These teachings are never compartmentalized or in their own cubby holes, if you will. They're so interwoven, and they're being felt, through our hearts and through our consciousness in unique ways. And so however women are identifying with their feminine artistry, it may be through color, it may be through the curriculum of the rose herself, which is what I'm apprenticing with and in deep devotion with right now in this stage of my development and spiritual development.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And I can feel my heart is expanding when you talk and how it does something to our heart. And I also think that sometimes when you are out in the world or women are out in the world, we can be afraid for that because we think that we don't have the time. But if we just take the time and receive her medicine, something is happening inside of us. And I haven't uh, talked about me as a sacred growth um, teacher or something, but in almost everything I do, I have to have the rose with me. And I talk much about the healing of the yoni and the womb and the breasts. And in every course, I have this guidance where they are using the rose to anoint themselves. And in this sacred sensual touch with the rose, it's a meeting with her. And the women, what they are experiencing is something that is beyond what we can explain even logically. And sometimes in my life I have been through hard times and traumatic experiences and pain in my heart that I feel that I nearly can't handle it. I can't survive it. And the only thing that that have helped me has been to connect with the rose and how healing she is, that she can hold the pain that is almost unbearable. Is that something that you also can see, or is it just me?
I feel that that is actually a very common, believe it or not, expression and experience for women right now who are relating to the rose. And, a little bit of science to it, not just, esoteric or, spiritual teachings with her is, measurably, she holds a very high frequency. And so she holds that frequency of 320 megahertz. And I first learned about megahertz and frequency not necessarily through a spiritual teaching, but through through oils, through essential oils, and learning how to use oils in anointing techniques and practices because they carry the DNA, they carry the codes of the plant. And I will circle back, but I feel like it's important to share that we have our outer bodies and then we have our blood. And when we want information on, hey, what's going on, we want to test our hormones, we want to test our mineral levels, our vitamin levels, um, our red blood cells, our white blood cells, our hemoglobin. I mean, what do? We take a blood sample and our blood is red, and they're measuring it, through frequency. They're measuring it through different layers of understanding. And so with oils, particularly, we'll speak into the rose, it carries the information. So it carries the DNA of the lineage of the rose herself. And so when you're speaking into, one of the only things that could support me in that, whether it was heartbreak or you talked about like unbearable pain, which I have a story. Not sure if I'm going to be sharing that story right now, but she does hold, the healing of the earth within her. And we can't deny that the earth isn't healing. We can't deny that when we take our shoes and our socks off and we plant the bottoms of our feet, that we're discharging positive ions and soaking up negative ions. So therefore, the food and the flowers and the plants and the herbs that grow from the earth, naturally, they're going to, allow us to, I love using the word correction and mismanage, like a mismanaged heart and mismanagement in the way that we've given our power away. And so there's a correction that takes place through herbalism. There's a correction that takes place when we're eating organic foods. And there's an entire correction that takes place when we hold the rose to us. In fact, during COVID, when I had friends and family that lost their sense of smell, it's like unplugging.
Yeah.
We can bring that sense of smell back online through the olfactory nerves, through the limbic regions of our brain. And so there's actually a lot of science to the rose as well. And I feel it sort of is, for our benefit to play with both, to understand, the lineage of the rose and how she was used in, the ceremonial practices of Mary Magdalene and Mother Mary and Isis. And we remember our feminine roots. We remember our feminine rights through that. And it's like, ooh, and I can empower myself by understanding that there's a whole science to the rose, just like our energy bodies. We often relate to our chakras, our energy centers. So we have our root,
Yeah.
our solar plexus, our sacrum, our heart, our throat, our third eye, and then the crown. That's 7. Of course, there's more. I can't identify them all, but those are the 7 that, are most talked about and introduced. The rose, 7 parts: her roots, her
Yeah.
stem, her leaves, her thorns, her bud, her petaling, and her essence, her fragrance herself. And
Yeah.
so there is something to it when we bring that rose physically to our bodies. We are mirroring the curriculum in which she holds. And
Mm.
so there is a whole, science to the rose as well that explains why we feel that correction, that deep healing, that mending of the heart, the coming back to wholeness when we're identifying rose as as a teacher, as a healer, as a plant spirit, and she's just as potent as a psychedelic. And that's what I personally love about it, because I love journeys and I love exploring and, transcending my ego mind. And I love receiving information without the altered states of consciousness. But that's my personal, that's how my nervous system operates. It can't quite register um, a more chaotic state of being. I've tried. I've sat with some other medicines, and I've actually heard, like, I'm not for you. And so Rose is just as potent when we invite her in, right? We need
Mm,
to, she's here, but she doesn't know that we're calling her in. So when we invite her in, when we speak to her in your most authentic voice, and for me it's very playful and childlike, and like, what do we get to create together to serve?
yeah,
She will answer. She will answer you. Yeah.
yeah, yes. Oh,
That's a mouthful. It's a rose full.
yes, it's roseful and it's so beautiful. And I also feel that it's so, I love that it speaks to ourselves and that you can explain it in this beautiful way, because as you said, it's one thing to feel and to know. Sometimes we as women just know things, and to then can explain it a little bit more is so, it's give us even more power in it, I think.
I feel that it allows us also, and not that we're disrespectful, but it gives this reverence to the lineage
Yeah,
itself. And and that's where the ceremonial aspects come in. I mean, Rose is, she has her thorns,
yeah,
rightfully so. And I've known for myself too. The thorns teach me, oh, I was a little bit irresponsible with her.
yeah,
Meaning I was irresponsible with myself, right? It's a
mm,
mirror.
yes,
Or I feel Rose, it does carry a frequency of loyalty and royalty and power, and not power in the sense of dominance, but in the sense of respect for the plant, respect for the lineage, which again is a mirror for ourselves. And when we're in devotion to our artistry and to our craft, I mean, there's room for playfulness and there's room for play and inner child, but that can also be irresponsible, as we see with kids. And so, where's the balance in, really tending to her deeper wisdom and her ceremonial practices?
mm,
And that can be our own individual way of creating that ritual or creating that practice in your home. Some have morning rituals. Many women, I work very closely with the seasons. I feel
mm,
deeply deeply pagan in in my lifetimes. And so, because I feel it, because I just, like, you can't deny, I we can't deny what nature does, basically. Like,
mm,
nature's the truth. Nature operates according to the change of the seasons. And when we allow ourselves to tune in and tap in with that, life becomes more fluid and somewhat easy in the way that we're working organically versus synthetically. And and I have so many different rose ceremonial practices to bring us closer to our natural cyclical rhythm. And you mentioned one of them, bringing her to your body. And I
Mm.
love even just taking the rose petals and dipping it into some water. And then, that now I'm connecting with the element of water also. And I'm bringing that rose to my womb space.
Mm.
And I'm re-dipping it in the water and I'm bringing her to my heart space,
Yes.
re-dipping it in the water and bringing her to my crown, to my third eye. You can add some oils into the water. You can add rose petals into the water. And these are ancient temple practices that carry power and carry that mysticism and carry that mirroring of the capacity that we have when we allow ourselves to tune into that and are in right relationship and we're in reciprocity with her curriculum. And she doesn't want to be just taken advantage of in that way. And so we're
Mm.
also in an interesting place of you know who is really being called to a devotional path,
Mm.
because you know what, it does go against everything
Yes.
in 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 politics and in the matrix, and it is somewhat rebellious and requires sisterhood, because we're not meant to practice alone. We're meant to remember together in community, on in circle. I mean, the circle itself, unity and wholeness and remembrance, and yeah, it goes deep.
Yes, absolutely, and really deep. And I also feel that you mentioned some of them that she has so many gifts.
Mm,
It's just not to be open-hearted, for example. It's also to I feel she also bring this sense of deep courage for following our priestess path, or the way that we been shown from our depth that we are going to go walk. And when we practice with her, then it's so much easier because she's helping us to stand there. As you said, it's normally it's not so much appreciated in the society as we see it, because it's rebellion to follow the feminine, um,
mhm.
as it looks like right now. So if we want to be, if we want them to applaud us and share us on, that's not what we always get from the outside. So we have to have
Mm.
this feminine strength, and she's giving us that.
What I love is that she is awakening within the feminine consciousness. And I even had some hesitation last year around this time to pivot in the way in which I was leading my women's retreats and facilitating. So it took a little bit of time, for me to build the trust within myself to take that pivot. I've always worked with ceremonial elements and the seasons. And and I live here in Sedona, Arizona, and so the land here herself is really enriching, and carries the frequency of healing because of its history with Native American healers here, and deep ceremonial practices that have happened on this land for hundreds of years. And so it's very enriching to surround yourself in the vortex here and in the red rocks here. And so I've been leading and bringing women on the land. And so to take that pivot, I was like, ooh, my own inner, hesitation and conversation. Yet she became so strong. And I'm so glad that, I started announcing basically, like, I'm working with Rose as a plant medicine and as a feminine teacher. And I sat through a 30-day, and I am going to call it dieta, 30-day dieta, ingesting her through essence, through ceremonial practices. And it was completely magnetic, because then I started attracting many other women who are also working with the rose. And it may not be exactly the way that I'm called to, and I work with her in her anatomy. And so as I shared the 7 parts of her, and
Mm.
I'm not so focused right now anyways, and that can shift and change on on the gospel of Mary Magdalene, and the her story of the rose. For me, she's a curriculum in herself. And I see in the back, is that a pink rose, pink
Yes.
flower that you have? Beautiful. And so the pink, oftentimes we connect red to love. And not to say that each color isn't, rooted in love, but the pink herself, that's feminine artistry. The pink is representative of the inner child imagination until about that age of, 5 to 8, before we start to, get introduced to mainstream conditions in thinking. So when we apprentice with the pink rose, she brings us back to, piercing through that veil of artistry. The white
Mm.
rose, we work with her for deep purification and energetic cleansing, whether that be, emotionally, spiritually, initiatory. And then
Mm.
the red rose, she's the sensual, she's sort
Yeah.
of the inner seductive, she's the tantric teacher for us. And the gold rose, she roots us into the high priestess, being able to hold great containers for other women to step into their rites of passage and initiatory processes. And the violet rose, the spiritual temple, the cathedral of feminine teachings. And so each rose carries her own curriculum. And for me, she's coming through me seasonally. So I'm coming towards the completion of the violet rose, and we'll be moving into the solar rose codes of yellow, in the balance of the masculine and the feminine energies within her. And so she's symbolic, she's also physical, and deeply spiritual in our internal landscape and in the hearts and the consciousness. And so it's so fun to have conversations with other women, and how the rose is awakening within them,
Yeah.
almost like the Da Vinci Code. We all are coming into, parts of the mandala, the pieces and the codes. And, having these connections and conversations right now is so important, because we're remembering together. I don't have all the codes. I just shared, the ways in which I'm working with her, but I want to learn more about, the lineage of Isis and how the rose worked through her. That's not, awakening in me right now. I have an idea, I can feel it, but it's not fully online. So to hear how other women are weaving it is only going to empower us and protect us.
Yeah.
I mean, it's only recently that, it's a whole nother political conversation, but it's only recently that we've been given access to certain rights. I mean, taking out a business loan, voting, buying a home. I mean, these are new concepts within the last 100 years, and that's crazy. It's so crazy. It's almost within my lifetime, a few years off.
Yeah.
And so to see what we're doing now, it's so beautiful. And like you said, yeah, it's not to be rewarded or recognized by, mainstream anything, because we're bringing through frequency, and the frequency is what is carrying our lineage beyond when our physical body, transcends. So that's what I'm most excited about, and that's why it's so important for me now to bring through the teachings and share them with other women, because it's not just about now. It's, we are creating this reality that, I want to rephrase that if I can. It's all in the now. So I had this really beautiful experience, I don't know, a month or two ago, and I was like, wow, the what I reference as ancient temple teachings, it's all happening now. And we're able to tune into that, and we're having this remembrance, not necessarily because of a past experience, but because of now. And so there are like temples and cathedrals that are
Mm.
here right now through vibration and frequency. Another
Mm.
rose full there. Yeah.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's so beautiful. I can feel it. It's just tingling and vibrating and activating, and it's so, so
Nice.
beautiful to listen. And it's so interesting when you talk about the colors of the rose. And I also feel that she is both this young rose, as you said, and also this more mature and wise and older, if you say, energy of her. That is, she's coming to us with different kind of medicine in different type of stages and colors and also what we need. And I think you said something in the beginning of the conversation about devotion. And I also feel that when we start to devote ourselves to this path, just remembering our feminine essence and the gift that she holds, I think then it's a totally different um, force within us that are guiding us that we can't even explain for someone that have not taken that path, because it's more of devotion. It's not that, as I said earlier, about I want something to happen or I want to get some people to like me or something. You can't even stop this energy inside of you when you feel the devotion for her. And
Mhm.
then it's so important to have this sisterhood as you talk about, and also the support of, for example, the rose. She's so magical to have in these situations when we feel alone and afraid of speaking up and sharing what comes up and what we are being guiding to share.
Hmm. I want to speak into, so you and I, like, right now we have a connection to her. And I know there's some women right now that are maybe curious, right? Or they're seeing more of her online or, through Instagram and things like that. I mentioned you can call her in. And so if someone watching is in a space of like, I'm stepping into my feminine artistry, or I'm just using some examples that I hear. I'm working on my voice, or I'm healing a part of my past that I feel I'm like just there, right? Like I just need a little like something, and I've worked with a mentor, or I've sat with ayahuasca, or I've done the journaling, and there's just something else there. The invitation is to call upon the rose. And for me, in that transition, in the way I was facilitating, I was feeling stale. I was just like, I mean, we all go through that death and rebirth process with our artistry, when we're true artists. One cycle of the way I was sharing and expressing and creating and holding containers was dying. But through that, I wasn't really feeling much inspiration. I was feeling stale in my artistry. It was just like very dull in my creativity. And I was calling in a teacher of some sort, and I wasn't really sure. Was it going to be an actual physical mentor that was sort of going to mirror back to me and, help me through my blockages? I question, is it ayahuasca? Is it psilocybin? Because I did start to feel the presence of a plant spirit. Now, I've already been working with Rose, but not to the capacity in which she came in during those prayers and during the questions of, who's it going to be? Who am I gonna? Who can support and help me right now? And she came into my awareness so playfully, laughing, giggling, like like, Dia, I've been under your nose this whole entire time. Look around you. And it was like, yeah, I started looking around just my physical space, and I have roses. I have roses hung upside down. I save roses from my ceremonies because it's the dried roses that are actually holding the wisdom. And so, it's like I invoked her. I called her essence, and I called her spirit in. And then she led me into the dieta. She led me into sitting with her for 30 days, decalcifying, the things that I was holding onto, creating space for me to begin a playfulness in the way she wanted to be created. I began to channel scripture. I began to write creed. I began to develop curriculum for her 7 parts within her 8 colors. And she is available and wants to guide us, through our feminine artistry. And so, she, even if you don't have physical roses, right, she's an energy. She is a frequency. She is a voice that right now is being heard and felt in the collective for us. And so for women, it's like, sure, yes, bring a physical rose into your space, and just like people talk to their plants, right? I mean, people talk to their plants so that they can grow and that they're happy. And I feel sort of like Rose has been disregarded in this way, you know, like let her be your friend, you know, your sister, and she will communicate to us. And that's, you know, and it's fun and it's devotional, and she will guide, she will answer your prayers.
Yes.
Hmm.
So you mentioned the oil, the rose oil, and also are you drinking rose tea, or is it, do you have any more ways to connect to her that way?
Yes, I feel oil is almost a non-negotiable
Yeah.
one, because it just it and I'm not religious in the sense of following one particular one particular religion. Yet, I mean, there's over 200 oils referenced in the Bible for
Mm.
healing and purification purposes. And, you know, when we, you know, think of Mary Magdalene and anointing Jesus Christ's feet before his crucifixion,
Yeah.
you know, not, it's not, the oil's not only for preparation, but pres- preservation, in that, you know, it's carrying his codes on. And so
Mm.
oil, again, it just has the
Mm.
codes within the oil herself. And yeah, just, I mean, in one drop of oil goes such a long way. So a drop of oil, you can hold it to your nose. And when we breathe, you know, through the olfactory systems into our memory, into the limbic regions of the brain, you know, we're practicing aromatherapy,
Yeah.
aromatic therapy. So
Yeah.
therapy through remembrance, and not
Yeah.
just like, memory within this lifetime, but multiple lifetimes. So apprenticing with Rose through the oil, through
Yeah.
rose tea, as you mentioned. And the funny thing is, I'm not even the biggest fan of the taste. It is very floral. She is super potent. Um, and in a medicinal dose, a ceremonial dose, just like with cacao, is, maybe 6 ounces. So it's not even that you need a whole lot of tea. And rose essence, which I'm actually starting to make my own. And so, that's internal. So now you're taking her internally. You can use the oil on your body. So you're taking internally, topically, and aromatically. So we're ingesting her, we're
Yeah.
dieting with her in multiple different ways. And so
Mm.
when we're, dieting and digesting her, we're bringing her into our body, and we're receiving her, through drinking, which is going to create all new pathways to receiving information. When we're using the oil topically on the womb and on the heart and on the third eye, we're connecting to her energetic centers and her curriculum as well. And I feel that 30 days is, I think, a window. I feel it's a window of time to
Mm.
really experience a course correction. And so for me, it was developing um, a new level, really, of my delivery and how I wanted to lead and guide and work with women. And so I do guide women in the 30-day Rose
Mm.
Dieta. And, the word dieta, I've had some, like, can you use that because it's, it is a shamanic word. It is a language that's used in the Amazon, working with other plant medicines. And I explored some other language around it, and she was very clear, like, no, like we're dieting, Dia.
Mm,
Like
mm.
you can use, like,
Yeah.
it's okay. It's appropriate. It's, you're in respect, and you're in reverence for me. Um, but just a gentle way to begin, the apprenticeship without, guidance or anything. Yeah, bring the roses in your home, start to speak with her, have a conversation with her. um, Carve out your own time and space to have intimacy with her. If you are one that loves that sensual feel and touch, allow yourself to bring her petals onto your skin, brushing against your lips. If they're non-sprayed and without chemicals, I mean, most rose petals are edible. So you can put her in your mouth, and, just
Yeah.
really start to taste her in that way.
Mm. Yes, so beautiful. And yes, my whole body is vibrating. And she also, as you said, she both give us this remembrance of receiving, because the connection with us helps us to remember that we are so receptive and meant to receive in some way as females. And I think that we have forgotten that. And also in this openness and receptive state, we also hold the integrity, as you said about thorns, and we can have this authority about our energy and our bodies, as in the same time that we are open and receptive.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, with the thorns, I feel they're, and depending on which rose, but they carry this mother,
Yeah.
mother energy,
Mm.
and very primal,
Yeah.
intuitive, and natural instincts to her.
Mhm.
And when we're, in danger, you know, not terrible danger, but, in that frequency of out of alignment,
Yeah.
um, you know, we like, well, it's intuition, right?
Yeah.
It's all, we're developing intuition, we're developing telepathy, we're developing the ability to connect in sisterhood across the globe without even needing to be present. And we're bringing back,
Yeah.
these ways of communication and relating. And again, another conversation, but technology is a part of this,
Yeah.
in the way in which, we're able to do this with one another. But now, once, we close the computer screen, we've developed a level of telepathy between one another just through the conversation and the consciousness of
Yeah.
the road. And, that's the thread, right? She's threading between all of us, and the thorns are like that mother that's,
Mm.
protecting us in our sacredness. And and we're more mature now, and we're more responsible now in carrying forward these
Mm.
teachings that have been buried. I mean, like, literally, buried and burned. And I find it cool and fascinating that you can bury them and you can burn them, but they're of frequency. And
Yes.
we're tuning into our bodies where we're remembering through
Mm.
vibration and we're remembering through frequency. And the rose just happens to be the symbolic representation of the feminine lineage. And
Mm.
stop there because, yeah, I'm feeling excited.
Oh, that was so beautiful. And I got that picture of weaving as a big rose protecting field of the mother. I never talked or thought about it in that way, but that was absolutely amazing. I can feel it, and also I can feel how when we talk about her, it brings a sense of calmness and steadiness and groundedness in the openness. And when you talk about it like we weave together with her, I think also when you talk about the rose lineage and how we can remember that it is something that is healing inside of us as sisterhood too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, we're meant to be creative and we're meant to experience beauty and we're meant to work with the ways in which the earth is created to support us and I feel there's no one way, right? There's
Mm.
many beautiful traditions that are coming back online right now and coming to life right now. And yeah, for me personally, I feel the rose as, yeah, the holding the torch for us
Mm.
to really embody and anchor into our feminine artistry that's so important for us to remember our art.
Yes, absolutely. And I also feel that when I work with women, they're either afraid of receiving, or we can be both afraid of receiving, or we have a blockages to receive and to be open and naked and sensitive, or a fear of expression. And many times it's both ways, but it's these two, we jump between these two things. Are we too much, or are we too little or small? Do we can we express our truth and can we shine our beauty, or can we receive all the love and all the magic that is here for us? So the rose can teach us from both ways. And I also think that, as you say, of that artistry, and every rose is unique, and every woman is unique, so we can allow ourselves to be free in our own expression. That is, and then enjoy each other's expression. I love that. And celebrate
Mm,
our sisters in their expression, when and also we inspire each other to be more fully alive and radiant and expressing what we are here to express.
yes, 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 through music and dance and poetry and, yeah, clothing and
Yeah.
adornment if you choose or not choose, or being completely naked and,
Yeah.
yeah, just connecting to our rawness in that way. I love being alive right now. I feel it's so I feel, I really chose a good time because it's so fascinating and so interesting, and to hear others paths and other stories, and also to be aware of political systems. And it's all so interesting to me.
Yeah.
It's all like every night, I sit down and we talk with my partner about our days, and and I'm like, what did you choose today? What was the reality you chose today? What game did you choose today?
Yes.
And we get to choose. Like, we truly get to choose. We get to
Yeah.
choose. And
Yeah.
yeah, we get to choose.
Yes, exactly. And I think that is the feeling of freedom when we understand that, because I think the most painful state to be in is to shrink and to hide and to stop ourselves, even if it don't be the way that we think or that we want it to be, but keep expressing and keep allowing life to move through us. I think that is the that's why you feel so joyful to be alive, because you live. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
This is it. I mean, I know there's beyond, but it's like, this is it, everybody. Like,
Yes, we can do the most we can about the of
yeah.
this. Yeah, yes. So
Mm-hmm.
the times flew by, and for those who want to have more of you, because we are going to wrap up this conversation, but I know that there are many out there that wants to know more about you and to get in contact with you. Where do they find you?
I would love to invite anyone who's inspired. So I recently created a Royal Rose Code exploration. And so some may call it a quiz, but I'm calling it an exploration. And it really is, it's a series of like archetypal questions to see which rose frequency is most alive in your field right now.
Yeah.
And so that can be found. It's free, it's fun, it's a way to begin your journey in possibly wanting to go a little bit more in apprenticing or being led through a rose dieta. But for that, it's diamariarose.com/rose code. So diamariarose.com/rose code. And it'll just bring you right into this beautiful exploration, archetypal wisdom, and see which frequency, which rose code is blooming in your heart right now.
Yeah.
It's a
Wow.
great way just to start, to begin. You should take it too. I'll send it to you personally. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I will link it under this video so they easily can find it. Yes. You,
Beautiful.
yeah. Something more? Or is that the way?
Something more. Something more. Um, my current website, diamariarose.com.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can find it there. And Instagram,
Yes.
keep it all simple. Dia
Yes.
Maria Rose. Dia
Love.
Maria Rose. Yes, yes, that
Yeah.
would be so beautiful. For more archetypal rose wisdom and lineage temple teachings and sacred teachings of the rose. Yeah, definitely
Yeah.
tune in
Yeah.
on Instagram.
Yeah.
Very rich in the rose codes.
Yes, it's so beautiful. And I will link that too under this video so they have them easily to
Sweet.
go there. Yes. But thank you, Dia, for this conversation. Yeah. An hour got really
Yeah,
fast.
it does. It goes fast. It goes
Yes.
fast. Yeah, thank you for seeing me and inviting me on, and yeah, allowing me and allowing us to have this conversation, because the blessings and the connections and the alignments, will take place, now in indefinitely, once we close this transmission. And so let's see what magic unfolds for both of us.
Yes. I totally agree, and I can feel that you have planted some new seeds of the rose.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah. So
Mhm.
thank you, Dia, and thank you all
Thank
that have
you, sister.
listened. Thank you.
Yeah, have a beautiful, beautiful day.
Yay.